Yeah, the only thing that I'd have to say is the equipment replacement fund is money that can be utilized to balance budgets or whatever, if the council so decides to do. That money is not committed to anything in particular. And that's,
Yeah, it is.
it's committed to replacing equipment as it goes bad. But the thing is, that if the council determines that they need to use that rather than go out for a parcel tax, it's money that we have set aside for something. We can use that and then replenish it later on if we wanted to.
Well,
And I'm just
I
simply
think
saying that those are reserves that are available to us if we need them in a case of an emergency.
Well,
But I'm satisfied with the definition here of, that you've come up with. The only thing that I have a problem with in the definition of a balanced budget is that when you've added after the semicolon, however, reserves can be used to offset a revenue shortfall, I don't think that needs to be in the definition of a balanced budget. And then when you get down at the end, because you have two figures there, or a range of 5 to 15%. Does that mean if we have anything over 5%, we can spend it, or does that mean we have to have 15% and then we can spend anything over that?
Let me
I think
clarify
that adds some ambiguity to the ordinance. It's not necessary because you have in number 5, the general fund reserve policy, which defines the range. And I think that simply if you decide you want to expend excess reserves, the council can do that.
Well, I think the GFOA would like us, one of the recommendations in the best practice to be very specific. So I've entered the same information in two places. One in the case of a balanced budget and one in the case of defining what the general fund reserve level, which is between 5 and 15%. And I've also said a higher level is desirable, and it certainly is desirable. That is the minimum.
I interpret this to mean that at no time would we ever go below 5%. And I think good fiscal stewardship would, in my opinion, would not take it below 8%. But, we have that range. Now, there are times in the past where our reserve has been greater than 15%, and we've maintained that. Or we have used that to offset some general fund expenditures so that that we still keep a healthy reserve. We're looking at ranges here, and I think policy needs to establish ranges and not something that's carved in stone. We all recognize that what a balanced budget is. Revenues equals expenditures. But during the next few years, we may have to pull down on some of our reserves, provided that they don't fall below the minimum of this range. And if it looks like it's going to get that, then we make more cuts in terms of whatever we can do to keep that from going below 5% or even 8%. And I think the city manager has made it pretty clear that it is the intention to maintain an 8% reserve, but this gives us some flexibility.
Sorry, what does DFOA stand for?
GFOA,
okay.
Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. They do a lot of research on best practices, recommended practices for municipalities and other governmental agencies in terms of what the budget should be, the accounting and that sort of thing. And we pretty much follow their lead.
Okay.
And
Any
it's-
other questions?
It's my understanding you actually brought up this at the goal-setting session, correct? That this was going to help with auditing purposes and things like that. In the last audit, you said it would have been helpful to have this.
Last budget, yeah.
Yeah, last budget, yeah. So that's why it was brought up, correct?
And I think the council wanted to have,
That's
one
one
of
of
their
our
goals
objectives.
was
Yes, yeah.
fiscal sustainability. And so it was a perfect match, and I'm very happy to have the first objective or goal completed. Hopefully, if you pass this.
Okay. Any other questions of Sandra before I go to the public? Thank you, Sandra.